I really like this one. I'm gonna grab myself one. And this one I actually have at my house and I love it. And this is awesome. I started using one last year and I absolutely love it. Look at this zinnia. Hi, it's Steph and we're at Walmart and they've received all of their spring gardening inventory. We'll check out some seeds, seed starting supplies, lawn and garden items, pots, planters, and some other really cool things. So let's go ahead and check out the February inventory at Walmart. And here's an item that they've been carrying every year for the last several years. It is the Burpee seed starting trays. Now I have a number of these 16 cell trays and I really like them. They're very easy to pop out your seedlings because they have a silicone bottom, which will provide very little root disturbance. They're also plastic, so they're really easy to wash and maintain, and they have a tray at the bottom to catch your water for bottom watering. And because they are stackable, they will take up less space in storage. Great seed starting trays. They don't come with a humidity dome, but you can just use a piece of saran wrap to provide a little humidity to your trays until your seeds germinate, and then you can remove it. Let's take a look at some of their gorgeous seeds. Look at this zinnia. That is incredible. It is called Meteor and it looks like it has a fuchsia magenta kind of color. Very pretty. And it tells you that it is 80 days to bloom. Now, zinnias are a warm weather flower, which means you don't want to plant these outside until all chance of frost has passed in your area. So in the spring, once you have no more freezing nights, you can go ahead and sow these directly into the garden. They're very easy. You just scratch up your soil to rough it up a little bit, press these into the soil, water them lightly, and you are good to go. And then they have this one that is called the Giant Double Flowered Mix. Most of these appear to be $1.96, but this one says that it's a giant double mix, which is nice because sometimes zinnias come in single petal blooms and in double petal blooms. And a lot of times with these mixes, you end up with the single blooms and not too many of the beautiful doubles. This one's also really pretty. Giant Double Flowered Lavender Gem. Bees love zinnias. These are great pollinator attracting plants, especially when they have this open center like that. It's where they get all of their pollen snacks. I've grown this one before. It is a stunner. It's actually a little bit lighter pink than what you see here, but it's beautiful. It's the Double Flowered Enchantress. Real pretty one. And then there's this one here, coral. I love corals, pinks, purples in the garden. But what you can do is you can do a succession planting. In the beginning of the season, you can plant these bright summer colors, the purples, the pinks. And then as you get closer to the fall, you can do a second sowing of these at some point in mid to late midsummer, I would say, because these take a few weeks, about 6 weeks to really start going and blooming. You can plant the reds and the oranges and the yellows. This one is Cherry Queen. And then this one is the Canary Bird. Very beautiful. And this one I have grown before as well. Very pretty. The Envy. Gorgeous like lime green color, which is kind of a hard color to get in flowers, but it coordinates so nicely with pinks and purples. Look at that. Here's another really pretty red one, Scarlet Flame and Giant Double. So these giant doubles are the way to go because they really do give you huge blooms. And then these are really interesting. Someone asked me when I did this video last year if I had seen any of the peppermint stick. And what's cool about these is that you can see that there's almost like a striping effect on the petals, which is really interesting. Now, everything you need to know about growing seeds is going to be on the back of the seed packet. It tells you how many days they take to germinate, how deep you should plant your seed, how far apart you should space them, what height they get, which is important so you know where to put them in the garden, and how many days they take to bloom so that you can count on a calendar and decide when to start those seeds. Morning Glories. Now, a lot of people like these to grow at the base of, say, a mailbox or even some kind of trellis or arbor because you get these really pretty blooms. But I have heard that they can self-seed like crazy and become invasive. But look how beautiful this one is. Dwarf Tricolor. And they have this one called Flying Saucers. That's also really pretty. It almost looks like a tie-dye. This one's really cool too, the Moonflower. You know what's something really interesting about morning glories? They open up in the morning and they close up in the evening. I find that really cool. The same with moonflowers. These are actually opposite. These open in the evening and then they close up during the day. So you would only get to enjoy these in the evening and these in the morning. So you can almost grow a set of two over an arbor or a trellis. But these moonflowers have huge white blooms gorgeous. They look like they glow at night, actually. Pansies, these are the Swiss giants. These are also really fun to start from seed. I did it for the first time last year, but they do need to be started early because pansies are cool weather flowers, which means they like to hang around in early spring until it gets too hot. And in the summer, they peter out. So these should usually be started in probably midwinter in order to have seedlings that are large enough to transplant out into your pots and planters in spring. So might be a little late now at the beginning of February to start those, but those are a great flower, really easy. So maybe put it on your list for next year. Nasturtiums. These are edible. A lot of people use these for culinary purposes on salads and so forth. They're also a great plant to attract pollinators, and they deter pests, especially in vegetable gardens. So really great to put these at the edge of your planting beds or vegetable garden areas. This is the Alaska variety, which has a variegated leaf, which provides even another level of interest, and these really pretty blooms. They are also very similar to petunias, but grow a lot faster. So one of these seeds, and in a few days you have a seedling. They are hard, the seeds, so if you soak them in water for a day or so before you sow them, they'll germinate a lot better. This one is really pretty, like a deep orangey red, Empress of India. And then they also have this one here that's very pretty. Peach Melba. It looks like a peachy yellow color with a bit of an orangey splash in the center. The leaves are really cool. They look like lily pads. So these are great plants. I really love nasturtiums. Now, Snapdragons are another cool weather flower, one that's good to start early, similar to the pansies, because as it gets warmer, they don't bloom as much. If you have a mild winter, they sometimes come back as perennial, and they do get a bit of height on them. This one says it's the tall deluxe mixed color mix, so you would want to stake these to keep them nice and upright so that you can cut from them. And sunflowers. Cool thing about sunflowers is that they face the sun, hence the name sunflower. So when you plant these, make sure that you plant them in an area where they're going to get enough sun so that you can enjoy their sunny face and blooms. I one time planted some sunflowers, and I planted them near a fence, and they were facing my neighbor's yard the whole season, and I never got to enjoy them. So something to keep in mind. They have this mammoth Russian. They also come in different heights. So mammoth will tell you that they are really large. This one here grows to be 7 to 12 feet in height, and their stalks get really thick. So you can actually grow things like green beans up the stalk of your sunflowers as long as they're getting enough sun, which is really fun. So they almost serve as like a built-in trellis. This is a mixed variety, and this one's really pretty. I grew this one before, Moonshine. It's like a light yellow. These germinate pretty quick too. So from seed to bloom, it's 75 days. This is another really pretty light yellow one, the Lemon Queen. And I will tell you that this one I did try before, the Italian white. It wasn't white. For me, it was actually a light yellow like that. So sometimes, you know, it's interesting to see what comes out of that seed packet. It's a really fun one. It is dwarf. So this is a shorter stature sunflower, as is this one, the Incredible. So if you don't want to grow those tall behemoth sunflowers, you can go for these smaller varieties that also make a really great option for a container. This Dwarf Incredible takes 75 days from seed to bloom, and it only gets to be 2 feet in height. So you can plant it in the front of a border, second row of a border, or even in a container. And then there is also this one called Dwarf Sunspot. And this cutie, which is the dwarf teddy bear, which has a completely fuzzy bloom. The only thing is it's hard for pollinators to get anything off of this one because of the way that the flower looks, but you could always plant a mix of these so that you have something for the pollinators and something fun for you to try. The tip about sunflowers is that there are some varieties that are branching, like you can see this one here, where you'll get multiple flowers off of one plant. And then there are some that you only get singles. So some varieties like the Pro Cut, for example, they are bred for florists, and so they get one really beautiful sunflower, but once you cut off of it, it is done. You don't get any more blooms. But these that are branching, and usually it will tell you in the back of the seed packet if they are branching or single blooming, are a good variety if you want to cut and come again. In fact, all of the zinnias that we looked at and cosmos that we'll check out are cut and come again. That means the more you cut off of them, the more blooms you get. This is a really pretty morning glory, blue Picotee. Look at that. How interesting that you get a purple flower with just a little border of white. Texas bluebonnet. These are very similar looking to lupin. It might even be a variety of lupin. And these have a really beautiful kind of wildflower look and a spike bloom. It says it's a container variety, so maybe it doesn't get too tall. 10 to 15 inches in height. Takes 15 to 25 days to germinate and 60 days from seed to bloom. Thunbergia. This is a type of black-eyed Susan that is vining. This is also a great plant to start earlier in the season so that you get these blooms by midsummer. Great to plant at the base of a trellis or arbor. Very pretty. It says it gets to be 6 to 8 feet in height. They come in different colors. This one looks like the traditional orange, but they also have one called African Sunset, which is a beautiful kind of peach salmon color. Easy spring flowers for cool weather, bachelor's buttons. You get these really beautiful blue blooms. They also come in pinks and in whites. You can see here they have this mixed variety. Very pretty. Very easy to sow. Put them outside at the beginning of the spring, let them germinate, and then within a few, maybe like a little over a month, look at that, 42 days from seed to bloom, you'll have some really pretty blooms to cut and bring inside to enjoy. And perennials are also a great thing to start from seed to save some money. And here are some really great workhorse perennials for the garden. Black-eyed Susans or Rudbeckia. This variety is called Goldilocks. So this one looks like it has kind of a double petal. It says it blooms every year. So this is your key that it is a perennial. And you will look at the back and it'll give you information on how to sow them. Now, most perennials need a cold or a period of cold stratification in order for them to germinate. So if you don't sow them outside in the winter or use the process called winter sowing, which I do have a video on my channel. I actually just dropped a video a couple of days ago that goes over seed starting methods that you can check out if you're new to growing seeds. And so if you do winter sowing or sow them out in the winter, they will get that naturally cold treatment. If not, you can pop your seed packet in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks or in the freezer for a few days, and then you can try to sow them. But they grow really easily. I've grown quite a few perennials from seed. This black-eyed Susan here says that it takes 16 to 90 days to bloom. But one thing to know about growing perennials from seed is that they might not always bloom the first year. For example, I've grown a bunch of different varieties of coneflower or echinacea from seed. And the first year they will work on root development and foliage. And then in year 2, they usually provide you with blooms. So this is a great variety. It is native. The pollinators absolutely love it. And you get these big, beautiful cones that you can leave up in the winter to provide food for our birds. So really great one. And this one gets to be 30 to 42 inches in height. This is a great perennial, and this one's only $1.44. Here is another great perennial, salvia. Now, salvia comes in so many different colors. It comes in pinks, whites, purples. It also comes in different heights. It comes in perennial and annual varieties. This one appears to be a perennial variety. The pollinators absolutely love it, and it has a scent that's a little off-putting to deer and rabbit, so they stay away from it. And this one says it gets to be 24 inches in height. So these are a great companion plant for roses. I have mine planted along the front of my border with some double pink knockout roses, and it looks stunning. And the classic garden daisy, the Shasta daisy, also very easy to grow from seed. This variety is called Alaska, and it gets to be 24 to 30 inches in height. And these like full sun. All 3 of these perennials like full sun. So if you are starting a garden from scratch and you want to save on buying plants, this is a great way to do it. You can get a ton of plants for just under $2 a pack of seeds. This one, the maiden pinks, are great too. These are like the mini carnations. Okay, maiden pinks are also known as dianthus, and this variety gets to be 6 to 12 inches in height, so these are great for the front of a border. I actually grew a whole bunch of these and had them in the front of my walkway for several years before I changed them out for nepeta, just because I got bored with them. But they're really pretty, really nice bright pop of pink, and grow really well from seed. And lupin. Now this one, I will tell you, can get pretty big pretty fast. This is another one that didn't bloom for me until year 2. They also like a really well draining soil. If you have a soil that holds on to too much moisture, they will rot at the crown. Now, they also have a really deep taproot. So once you have the plant going and growing, if you try to transplant it to move it to a different spot, sometimes the plant doesn't make it. I actually had that happen to me, and then you have to start over. But lupin are a beautiful flower. They look gorgeous mixed with Japanese bearded iris because they bloom around the same time and make a great combo. Foxgloves. These, for the most part, are biennials. And what that means is the first year you start the plant from seed, you will get foliage and it will work on root development. And then the second year, you'll get these beautiful tall spikes of these bell-shaped blooms that the pollinators love to buzz in and out of collecting pollen. They are toxic, so if you have children or pets that like to frequent the garden, something to be aware of. Hollyhocks, gorgeous cottage garden flower, but they are susceptible to something called rust on the foliage. So something to be aware of. You'll see at the bottom, just around the time that they're starting to get ready to bloom, the leaves will start to look diseased and not very pretty. But hopefully they're working on breeding varieties that will be more resistant to rust. And columbine, a beautiful spring bloomer. Look at that. Deer and rabbit usually stay away from them. They have really pretty blooms with an open center that the pollinators love. And these are also pretty easy to start from seed. I've started them before. And you can see there it says 180 to 240 days to bloom. So start them this year. You'll probably get blooms next year. Winter sowing works really well to grow perennial plants, so give that a shot. And it also works really well for things like delphinium because you're putting them outside to get that cold treatment, which helps break down the shell on the seed and improves germination rates. Canterbury bells. Now these are a biennial as well. I actually started these last year and they will probably bloom this year. So you can see their days to bloom 180 to 360 plus. But beautiful bell-shaped flowers. They come in shades of purple, pink, and white. And Achillea, also known as yarrow, is another really great perennial. This variety is called Summer Pastels. And it says that it gets to be 20 to 30 inches in height and 120 days till bloom. Very pretty. This makes a great companion plant for coneflowers. They bloom around the same time. How fun is this? A cactus mix. I have never grown cactus from seed. I did see these here in store at Walmart last year for the first time. I didn't try it, but it would be something really cool to give a shot to, especially if you're interested in cactus. Cactus are great because they don't require a lot of water. So if you are a person that forgets to water your houseplants, maybe give cactus a try, and they look really nice in a bowl or low type planter. They also have lots of wonderful herbs, and I love to grow herbs in the garden. And what's really cool is that you can also mix your herbs with your flowers and have sort of a cottage garden or potager look going on. This one specifically is gorgeous. This is the dark opal basil, and look at that dark foliage. This would coordinate so nicely with different plants. Very nice. And then they have the traditional basils, dill. Dill is a cool weather herb, so it will do better when the weather is cool, and then it will peter out as it gets really hot in the summer. The same with things like cilantro. But dill gets a really beautiful yellow seed head on it that even looks really pretty in flower arrangements. And if you're looking for herbs to grow that you plant once and they come back every year, chives is a great one. And you get these really beautiful purple blooms in late spring. This is a really great herb to have. They are part of the onion family, so nothing touches them. You can actually interplant these in your perennial borders to keep pests like deer and rabbit away from your flowers that they are more attracted to. Chamomile to make tea. Very similar looking to, say, feverfew and daisies. Another herb that is perennial. So you plant this once and it comes back every year. Sage, and it has a really beautiful silvery blue leaf that, again, you can cut on and put in floral arrangements to have a little bit of a different scent in your flowers. So if you're looking to plant an herb garden that will come back year after year for you, here is a great lineup. Lavender. This variety is called Munstead. I grew this from seed several years ago, and it has done wonderfully for me. And it is one that can tolerate a little bit more moisture. It's an English lavender, and because they get a lot of rain in England, that one has been bred to be able to handle some of those conditions. Oregano, thyme, chives, and sage. So here it is, your first perennial herb garden. Candy tuft. This one is gorgeous. I've never grown it from seed. I've bought them as plants. I have the white, and it is a very early bloomer. So late winter, early spring, you'll get beautiful clusters of flowers. And they are 80 to 90 days to bloom. These are perennial and very pretty. So I would definitely try growing these if you're looking for candy tuft. Poppies. This is a beautiful one. It's called Thai silk. It's a California poppy, and they look like gorgeous little tissue paper flowers. Now, poppies also need a cold period or cold stratification in order for them to germinate. So if you don't sprinkle them out in the garden now while it is still winter, you can mimic that cold stratification process by putting them in the refrigerator for a few weeks or in the freezer for a few days before you sow them out in the garden. Now, they do need light to germinate. So what that means is you're just going to sprinkle the seeds on top of the soil and don't cover them up. Let them just sit there on the soil, but also pull away any mulch or leaves before you sprinkle the seeds so that they can make direct soil contact. And some cosmos. I absolutely love these. They are sort of nostalgic for me. I used to grow these with my grandmother as a kid, and they have quite a few varieties now. This one is called Candy Stripe, Sensation Picotee, Sensation Mixed Colors, Dwarf Cutesy. So the Dwarf Cutesy is going to be shorter. This one gets to be 3 to 5 feet in height. And then they have this one, which gets to be only 20 to 24 inches in height. So it would be a good option to grow in a container. Now, I will tell you that they're kind of lanky at the bottom, very thin and skinny. So if you grow them in a container, you're going to have to pack them tightly so that they look a little bit fuller. But you can also pinch these as they're growing to have them bush out a bit more and get more flowers out of them. Pinching just allows more side branching, which will in turn give you more blooms. And some marigolds. These are great to start from seed, very easy, and you can get a ton of them from just one pack, and you can spread them around your vegetable garden. These also transition beautifully into the fall, autumn tones that you get, warm colors. This is the traditional Cracker Jack mix that has a golden yellow. And these are 2 to 3 feet in height. And these will keep pests away from your garden because they have a bit of a strong fragrance, which keeps deer and rabbit away from your vegetable garden, which is why they are usually grown. This is the French Double Dwarf, very pretty variety. And then they have some other cool ones. This one is called Naughty Marietta. And this one is only 8 to 12 inches in height. And then look at this one with the striping. Very cool. Jolly Jester. Naomi, one that I grew for the first time last year. A friend had shared some plant starts with me, and I love them. It's said that when you have these in the garden once, you'll have them every year because they self-seed like crazy. So we shall see if I get any coming up. If not, I'm going to have to get some seeds to start them because I really love them. They look like a spider, a very wispy and beautiful flower. They come in different shades of pink and in white. Very pretty. And the difference between an annual and a perennial, if you're new to growing seeds, is that an annual is one that you will grow in one season, it'll bloom and it'll die. And a perennial is one that you start in one season and it comes back year after year. This here is an annual, and it is coleus, and these like shade, but they are also very easy to start from seed. They do take a really long time to get going, so something I would start early if you want them for your planters in the summer. But they look beautiful in borders as well as in containers. It says it takes 45 days to bloom. I find that it probably takes double that because they're very slow growing. But this is the mixed colors coleus, and $1.96. Coleus will send up bloom spikes, and in order to keep it nice and bushy, you want to pinch off those bloom spikes. Don't let it go to bloom. Otherwise, your plant will think that it's time to go to sleep and it will start dying back on you. If you want to keep it with nice, beautiful, bushy foliage, pinch off the blooms so when you start seeing them. And impatiens, another annual that is wonderful for shade. They can deal with shade or part sun. And if you are going to have them in any sun, morning sun is better because it's a little bit weaker than afternoon sun. But these have beautiful little blooms, and this is a mixed color set, so you'll get pinks, corals, whites, and they get to be 18 to 22 inches in height and take 50 to 70 days till bloom. Ornamental gourds, that is a lot of fun. Now these are pretty small. I've grown these before. They do take up a lot of space because they are a vining crop, but really cool, this mix here. You could grow them over an arbor or trellis or along a fence too. That would be fun. Dahlias. Now typically dahlias you can buy as tubers, right? And you would just plant them in the ground. They look like potatoes, and those are what your plant will emerge from. But you can also start dahlias from seed, and this is a really great option if you don't want to go through the trouble of storing those dahlia tubers. Because if you live in a colder zone, I'm in a 6B, 7A, and I do have to lift my tubers and store them for the winter. If I were to leave them planted in ground, they would freeze and turn into mush. So it is a lot of work to have to lift them and store them every year. But if you don't want to deal with that, you can just grow a few dahlias from seed, enjoy them for that season, and then be done with them and start over next year. And I know some friends that grow them from seed and they do really well. That one says that it is 7 days from seed to bloom. And then you end up with some really fun varieties. If there is one that you like and you want to try to have it come back next year, you can then lift that tuber and try storing it. This is a really pretty Cosmo too. This one comes in warm colors of oranges and yellows. And a friend had shared some of this variety or something very similar with me last year, and I loved them. I typically stick to cool colors like pinks and purples, but I really liked this one that I actually kept some seeds to grow again this year. Tithonia, also known as the Mexican sunflower, this is a really vigorous plant. It gets to be upwards of 5 feet in height, and it bushes out really well. Pollinators absolutely love it, and it's a really pretty one as you get closer to fall with that orange color. I'm actually going to pick this one up and grow this one this year in my raised bed garden. But they also have mixed packs of wildflower seeds. You can see this one reads a perennial mixture. So there'll be a lot of flowers in here that can return for you the following year. They have a cut flower mix, and they also have a bird and butterfly mix, as well as a hummingbird mix. And look at this Shasta daisy. This is a dwarf variety. So if you want something for a front of a border that doesn't get too tall, this one only gets to be 16 inches in height. Dwarf Silver Princess. And something new this year, a plant support center where they have lots of different stakes, really cool things too. So you can see that they have the wooden stakes that you can use to stake a tree or something that requires a little bit more sturdy support. They also have these bamboo stakes. They have the green stakes. These are like a metal with a plastic coating on them, and they come in a couple of different heights. The stretchy twisty ties that you can use to tie up plants, and sometimes you find this at the Dollar Tree for $1.25, so check there first. But if not, they have these here for $4.97, and they also have some twine for $3.96. This is great. I use this a ton. It is the stretch vinyl ties, and what's great about this is that because they are stretchy, especially if you're staking things, branches on trees and so forth, they will stretch as the girth of the tree or branch expands, so that it's less likely to damage that tree or plant. So I really like those. And then you have some trellises. These are the nylon trellises, and that is $4.97 for vining crops or even to grow flowers through that need staking, things like Snapdragons. And then here you have a soil test. Now, I have never done one of these before, but I find that this is really cool. I don't know how effective it is, but $12.97, you can get a soil testing kit. And then they have these, which are the clips for plant supports, some twist ties. They're like the bread ties with a little tool that will cut them at the end. And here is a moisture meter, which is great for house plants. It will tell you how much moisture is in the soil, so you know whether it is time to water or not. And look at this for tree care. So if you are planting a new tree this spring, you want to make sure that you don't plant it too deep. Plant it high, it won't die. Plant it low, it won't grow. And look at this. Don't do a mulch volcano either. You want to keep the mulch away from the base of the plant. And they have bark guards. This is great for weed whacking or to even keep things like bunnies from eating on the bottom of your barks in the wintertime. They also have tree stake kits to support newly planted trees, especially if you live in an area that is really windy like I do. You usually need to stake your newly planted trees, and a watering bag. So in the spring, we usually get a little bit more rain, but if you're not getting a lot of rain, this is a great option because you can fill it with water and it will slowly water the roots of your plant. And this is actually not a bad price, $13.47 for this watering bag, and the staking kit is $5.87. I don't think this string is going to be very strong. This piece here is essentially cut up hoses. So if you have an old garden hose, you can cut it up for this purpose, and you can use a bit of a stronger twine, like say a clothesline, to stake and support that tree. And here are those tree bark guards. The plastic feels a little flimsy, if I'm being honest. You probably find better ones online. Some tomato towers. Now these I never really find that effective because tomatoes get a whole lot taller than these short tomato cages here that are generally around 4 feet tall, especially if you're growing a determinate variety. Those might be okay here because determinants grow to a certain height and then they stop growing. But if you're growing a tall, indeterminate variety tomato, they will not be able to be supported by this. So you have to find a better way to support them, some tall stakes. But here are some other plant supports that are really great. This is a peony ring. Look at that. You can actually grow gladiola through them as well. Maybe even things like snapdragons that need support. And those are, let's see, $5.97. And then there's this one here that is just a circle, which is really great to stake up some plants that maybe can get a little floppy. In my case, that would be things like daisies or tall echinacea purpurea. And then they also have these here, which I actually bought a pack of last year, and they are great. So any plants that you have that kind of tend to sag with the wind or that need some support, these are like half circles. So you can layer one in front, one in back, or just put them in the front if that's where you need them. And they have two heights here. I think I'm actually going to purchase a few of the larger ones for my little lime hydrangeas, which can get pretty heavy as the season goes on and they get those large blooms. But those are $2.87 for the smaller ones, $3.97 for the larger ones. They also have these half round ladder type trellises, which would be nice to put like around a gutter pipe or something at the base so that you can get something climbing, like a climbing plant, like clematis. This would be a great option for. $9.96 on those. And they feel like they're made out of a metal, which is great. Some really pretty planters here at Walmart. Check this one out. Got like a modern check appearance with the orange as well as the green. These are $6.94. And then that's a really pretty one with that base there for $4.98. A really beautiful blue one for $6.48. And that one has a scalloped edge for $4.98. These are all smaller, pretty good for house plants. And then they have some larger ones. That one is really pretty in shades of ivory and like peach. And that is $15.98 for the 10-inch planter. This is what I was talking about, those low bowl type planters. This one's actually plastic, but looks like terracotta for things like cactuses and succulents. They look really cool. And this one is a 12-inch for $10.94. This one's really pretty also, $17.48. It's called Botanical Terr. You can look some of these up online as well. This one's pretty. It's a terracotta one with this. Is this called like a ribbed or fluted glass? It's actually plastic. It's called an Aquaterra planter. So I believe that maybe it's like a self-watering planter. Maybe not, but really, oh, look, fill planter up 1/4 to 1/3 of the way from the bottom. Interesting. These have different prices depending on the size. The 8-inch is $12.98. The 6-inch is $8.96 and the 4-inch is $4.94. But some really cool kind of retro looking planters. Look, that one is $8.88. Has kind of like a marble or stone look. It's terracotta. It says it's washed terracotta. And here are the prices on those. $9.47. This is a really beautiful kind of jade green, low bowl style. $15.98. And then these they've had for a couple of seasons now. It almost looks like a dripping paint effect and these neutral black and cream colors. $11.48 for the 8-inch glazed pot and $7.98 for the 6-inch. I really like these white ones. They have like that ribbed effect. It's also a bowl planter. The 8-inch is $8.98 and the 12-inch is $15.98. And then they have these, which I really like white planters for my indoor house plants. So even if they're a different style, I like to get the same color because I feel like it coordinates everything really nicely. And $7.24 for the 6-inch and the 8-inch is $9.97. So not bad for a beautiful 8-inch porcelain planter here. Does it have a drain hole? It does. It is plugged up with plastic. So if you put a pot within a pot, you can leave that plugged in because the bowl or the pot will catch the water. But if you are going to plant directly into this planter, you want to make sure to take out that drain plug so that your plant will drain, and then put a saucer underneath. These are really pretty. They look like pottery. And $10.98 for the 8-inch and the 6-inch is $7.98. If you're looking for larger planters, they have some of those as well. This one here is, oh, it's plastic, but it looks like it's glass and it's $10.44. So that's great for a house plant because once you fill these planters with soil, they get quite heavy. This one here is $23.48. And this one I actually have at my house and I love it. It is a bamboo look type planter, but it's actually plastic, which is great because it makes it durable. It also has a plastic liner so I can sit my pot right in it and I'm not worried about it spilling onto my floor. And it comes with the screw-on legs and it also comes in black. So there is this bamboo natural color in black and they're $29.97. for the planter with legs. And some solar lights. This is a great way to add a little bit of mood lighting to your garden. Look at this one. It even casts this cool light shadow or design on the ground of your walkway. And they have several different varieties. And these solar ones are great because you don't need to hardwire them. Like some of the wired varieties can be a little bit more difficult to get going. And this one here looks really modern. This one is stainless steel mini bollard pathway light set. You get 6 of them for $8.88. And then this one is really cool. Look at that. It's the crackle ball pathway light set. And it says that it suggests 2 to 3 feet between fixtures. So you'd have to measure your walkway or the area that you're looking to put these in and kind of determine how many packs you would need. And these are $14.98. And then they also have these that they have every year that are a little bit larger. And they are $5.84 each, and the solar panel is on top. So you want to make sure that they're getting sunlight in order to recharge the light so that they will light up at night. This one's also really pretty. It's a decorative garden lantern set, and you get 4 of them, and the lumens will determine how bright they are. And it suggests 4 to 5 feet between them for spacing. You get 4 lights for $14.98. And then these are also really cool. They're the ones that just sit in your soil, and they're great to either illuminate the front of a flower bed or a walkway or even around a mailbox. It looks really nice. $14.77, and you get 4 of them. And these are LED. And then I really like these spotlights. I have quite a few of them around my garden, and I use them to uplight trees. So any tree that has a really cool structure or even an evergreen that you want to just put some uplighting to at night, it looks really nice. And you get 2 of them for $14.87, and they have a 10 beam distance, 10-foot beam. So where you place it, it will shine for up to 10 feet. The closer it is, the more bright the light will seem, and the further out, the softer the light will feel. These are 30 lumens. I have had them for about 3 years now. The price has gone up. When I started buying them, they were around $11.87. So in the last 2 to 3 years, they've gone up a bit, but they do work well. And then you even have that one that is larger for 60 lumens, and those are $7.87 a piece. And you can see here that they also have the ones that go on the top of a post, and those are $9.96. And then these fence lights are $7.88. And these are for the steps, so the front of your risers. So lots of great options. You can even see at the top, at the very top there, they have some that have that gooseneck. Actually, I found some down below that we can look at. And they have these too that are really pretty. Flicker pathway lights. And these are $9.87 a piece. They are metal. So here are some of those adjustable light beams that would also be great for uplighting on trees. And these are $19.88, but they're 125 lumens, also solar powered. So that is great. So these are a lot stronger than the mainstays ones that we just looked at. I do find that the better homes and gardens are generally a little bit nicer looking than the mainstays, but sometimes the price is a little bit higher. And this one, you get 4-pack of those downlights for the pathway in a black color for $47.97, but really modern looking. And here are the 50-cent seeds. Now the varieties are pretty limited, but for 50 cents, what a great deal. Alyssum is a really great cool weather flower as well, and they're super easy and fast to germinate. They usually come in white, and this one looks to be like a pink or purple. Let me see how many days, 10 to 14 days to germinate, and the flowers usually come in 2 months tops. So if you want to start these in late winter to have them in spring, because they're very cool tolerant, they can deal with cold temperatures, which is great. They also have some dahlia seeds, marigolds, tithonia. So guess what's going to happen? I'm actually going to buy this tithonia for 50 cents, and I'm going to put this one back where it was. And what else do they have here? Nasturtiums, sunflowers, zinnias, and they also have some basil, some dill, parsley, beets, beans, and other vegetables. Spinach, carrots, cauliflower, cantaloupe, and so forth, peppers. So go ahead and look at your Walmart for these end caps. They're usually an end cap, and they have the 50-cent seeds by American Seeds. Some more fun outdoor lighting. They have the fairy lights that you can use on the railings of your garden. These are really fun. The curtain lights, that look really pretty on a patio. It has a warm white, which is a great color because it's a little softer than, you know, the white, which some of these LED lights have a bit of a blue tint to them. So try to buy the warm whenever you can if you want a little softer light. These are the 50 count outdoor LED globe string lights. I put some of these underneath my patio a couple of years ago and I love it. They kind of look more like this, the Edison style bulb. And this one you get 28 feet. And it is $28.97. But it really provides such a cozy feel on the patio in the evening hours. I really love it. And then they have these. They look like hot air balloons. Very fun. And you get 10 multicolor string lights for $12.96. And look how beautiful this is in this navy blue color. They look like lanterns with cutouts on them. And that string you get 10 count lantern globe string lights for $12.96. And then they also have this one, which is a hanging paper lantern. And you get, it's almost 12 inches in diameter, and you get one of them for $14.97. This would look really pretty too, hanging from a tree near a patio or somewhere where you can enjoy it. Speaking of lanterns hanging from trees, look at this set. Very pretty. It has like the Edison style bulb underneath. It's like a cage, bird cage type with the jute twine to hang it from, and you get 2 of them, and these are $9.94. I really like that one. Look at this. It's a solar hummingbird mobile. Very cute. $12.88. Look at the nighttime colors of the solar hummingbird mobile. So pretty. It is color changing LED. Look at that. And during the day, they look like they're a crystal color, which will reflect nicely with the sun. And then a sunflower crackle glass ball. Here are the mushroom decorative outdoor stake set. It's an LED stake set that I had seen before. Really cool looking. And these are $24.77. And then they have these here, which are solar stakes. Very cute. That one even has a hummingbird on it. So sweet. $12.78 for these. Cute little porcelain frogs with some little flowers and the turtle. $7.97 each for these ceramic garden pieces. I started using one of these in my garden the last couple of seasons, and they are game changers, especially if you have to water things down low or up high. It's one of these watering wands. It's called a telescoping wand. Has 10 spray patterns, and it is pretty long length. Let's see, 28 to 42 inches. So it expands. It has a little area here with the knob that you will turn, and it'll make it longer. So that is great. $13.88 for those. I really like these types of hose sprayers as well with a lever so that you don't have to stand there holding that trigger the whole time, which can cause a lot of fatigue on your hands, these traditional type sprayers. Look at this cute hat. Now, sun protection, super important if you go out and work in the garden. This one here says, does it have sun protection? Well, it doesn't say that it's SPF. Okay, so that is something I would look for, but if you're only going to be outside for a little bit of time, this might serve the purpose from keeping the sun off of your face, which is super important. And a floral canvas apron. Look at that. So pretty. Now, I will tell you that I have to wear aprons because I'm a very messy gardener and I get my clothes all dirty. So this is great. $14.88. Aprons are also great to hold your tools. So if you have your snippers out in the garden, really useful to have them nearby. And look at these beautiful watering cans. So pretty. $14.84 for these white ones. I really like this one. I'm gonna grab myself one. And these are, I believe, $4.97. I have one of these for my houseplants and I really do like it. It's very useful. $4.97 for this one. And then they have this one here, which is the black metal one with the same type of nozzle that helps you get right in there, have more control over watering at the roots. And this one is $9.97. Now these are beautiful and these are great because they are rose gloves. Because roses, you know, they can be a little prickly with their thorns. So if you are working on pruning your roses, which you should do late winter, early spring, these would be very helpful to protect your arms. Even if you're wearing shirts and you don't want them to get ripped on the sleeves, this will protect your arms as well as your clothing. And they have a thicker palm, which they're usually suede or leather. This one seems to be a very thick suede-like fabric, which will protect your fingers. These are $11.74. And then they also have this glove here, which is the ones that have the nitrile palm, which is great to keep your hands a little bit drier, especially if you're working with moist soil. And they have a very pretty pattern, this floral motif. $3.97 for the floral nitrile dipped gloves with superior grip. Some pretty tools. You get a trowel, a pruner, and a little garden fork for $12.88. And then they have the cute watering can as well. And I believe it is $4.97 for the watering can. So this one here for $6.88, you get a 5-pack of gloves, which is excellent. And this one you get, they have different sizes. So this is a medium, which I believe is my size. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a pack of these because I really like these with the nitrile palm. Like I said, they're waterproof and they make it a lot more comfortable to be working in damp soils. Now the top of the glove is not waterproof, so I will show you. Here is one that's outside of the package. So the top is going to be still that nylon type stretchy material, but the palm is this nitrile kind of rubberized thing that you can see here. And the individual gloves are $1.97, and they have them in that navy color and this gray color as well, in a size large. So I will test out which size I need. I believe it is the medium. And they also come in green in a size small. And look at this. They even have some leather palm gloves for $2.44. It says it's great for pruning and mulching. Now they only have a large in these and I need a medium, so I'll have to check at a different store, but really great price if you just need a pair of gloves to do a little bit of garden work. And if you're just getting into gardening, you will need some good pruners. And these are a great pruner for an entry-level gardener. I used these for several years before I was able to get myself a little bit better pair. I really liked them. So if you're looking for a decent pruner at a good price point, right here you have the Fiskars at $14.97. And they also have this one here for $11.97. The difference is going to be the size. So this can cut a 5/8 thickness branch. This one can cut a 3/4, and this one cuts a 3/4. I would go with a 3/4 because you can cut smaller things and larger things with that for $14.97. This is a great price for a soil scoop. You will find that trowels, let me know what you think, but trowels don't hold a ton of soil. So if you're scooping soil from your bag into your containers when you're planting or into your planting hole, I find that I lose a lot of soil from using my trowel. But these soil scoops, look how deep they are much better for that purpose. So for 97 cents, I'm gonna go ahead and grab one of these. And here are some extendable loppers as well as a smaller lopper and some hedge shears by this Expert Gardener brand. And I actually bought some of mine here several years ago and they have held up just fine. So for the amount of time that I used them, buying an affordable pair was a great option for us. And the hedge shears are 20-inch and they're $9.88. And the extendable lopper is a 38-inch one for $18.88. And the 15-inch lopper is $7.74. And this is awesome. I started using one last year and I absolutely love it. It is an indoor gardening mat. This is excellent if you do any kind of transplanting or planting of house plants indoors, or even potting up your containers for the season outdoors. It sort of makes a tray when you snap these corners, which contains all of your soil mass. And when you're done, all you have to do is unsnap the corner and it will very easily spill into the garbage or your compost pile or wherever it is that you need to dispose of. So it's really useful. And one side is canvas and the side that you're going to work on is going to be this side that is waterproof. So I really like these. I'm actually going to grab a second one to have on hand because it is a great price point. $4.97. This time of year, Walmart also stocks a lot of fertilizers as well as pest repellents and things like sprays like neem oil, fungicide spray for the garden, and they're a great price point. So Captain Jack by Bonide is a really great spray. This is the neem oil, which can take care of a host of issues that you have out in the garden with your plants. So this one, for example, you can spray if you have powdery mildew, rust, or even spider mites and white flies. And it is for organic gardening. And that is $7.24 for that bottle, which is 16 fluid ounces. There is this Maggie's Farm 3-in-1 garden spray. It says it's lethal to garden insects, mites, and diseases, but it is for organic gardening and be safe. And this is for black spot. It looks like aphids and white fly as well. And the active ingredients are thyme oil, cinnamon oil, peppermint oil. It seems like all natural ingredients. $7.88. And then you have the Houseplant and Garden Insect Killer by Garden Safe at $8.96 and $9.66, depending on the size. This is a 32 ounce, so it is $9.66. And then, of course, they have some of the Captain Jack Dead Bug by Bonite as well. Concentrate. It is liquid. So this is nice because you can spill a little bit into a container, dilute it with water, and you can keep making more. And usually concentrates are a better price. And so the concentrate here is $14.77. And then the Dead Bug spray, which already comes pre-mixed, is $8.24 for a 16 ounce bottle. And this here says that it kills bagworms, borers, and beetles, caterpillars, moths, gypsy moth, loopers, leaf miners, spider mites, thrips, and more. So I really love the Bonide line, the Captain Jacks. They work really well. Here's insecticidal soap, and it will tell you that it kills spider mites, whitefly, aphids, scale, thrips, etc. Thrips are really common in things like roses. And copper fungicide, which I really love. I use this a ton on my roses because I have bad luck growing roses and they always get diseased with a black spot and powdery mildew. So this is a really good one to use on roses, the copper fungicide. And the Rose RX is another good one. It says one product, quadruple control, spider mites, whitefly, aphids, and powdery mildew. So I am going to go ahead and grab another one of this copper fungicide. It's a great price at $5.66. Now, I have used these Expert Gardener fertilizers before, and I think that they work just as well as any other fertilizer. This one here is for vegetables, so tomato food. They also have an all-purpose plant food, and they have an organic one at the top there for $5.97. Now, bone meal is wonderful, especially for root development. So if you're going to plant things like dahlias, I usually put a little bit of bone meal in the planting hole for all of the things that I plant in my vegetable and cut flower garden. Works really well, $8.47, great natural fertilizer. And hydrangea fertilizer or soil acidifier. If you love those big leaf or mop head type hydrangeas with the blue flowers, the pH in your soil is actually what affects the color of the hydrangea bloom. So if you have a more acidic soil, you will get a blue hydrangea bloom. And if you have a more alkaline soil, you will get a pink or purple bloom. So this here is a soil acidifier. So you would go ahead and put this down underneath your hydrangea, scratch it into the soil, and over time it will acidify the soil more so you will get bluer blooms. So I think that's really cool. And then they also have Flower Food by Expert Gardener for $5.97, Rose Food, and Evergreen Tree and Shrub Food. And a great all-around fertilizer for your evergreens and for your flowering shrubs that like acidity, like your rhododendrons, camellias, azaleas, is Hollytone. And that is a great price, $9.97. It's an 8-pound bag. 8 pounds. And I also bought this last year and I love it. It is earthworm castings, and you get a bag of, let me see how many pounds, 4 pounds by Earth Science. And I also add that into the planting hole if I plant any vegetables, and it is $7.47 for that bag. And one of my very favorite fertilizers out in the garden is the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. And here is a great price. At Walmart, they have the 1 gallon for $23.97 and the 32 ounce for $11.94. This is concentrated, so you would just put a little bit into your watering can, fill it up with water, and water your plants. And they absolutely love it. I use this all summer long. It says it's organic gardening, won't burn your plants, and it's a 5:1:1 ratio. So really great stuff. A little bit stinky, but your plants don't mind. They absolutely love it. And Osmocote. This is a great slow release pelleted or beaded type fertilizer to add to any outdoor or indoor plants. And these beads will slowly break down and fertilize your plants as you water the plant. And the price here is actually great. It's $13.68 for this 2-pound size. And I actually checked, and at the Home Depot, it's around $18, and at Lowe's, it's around $15. So Walmart does have the best price on the 2-pound Osmocote shaker. Straw flowers are also a beauty. They actually feel like paper when you touch the petals. Awesome. This one here only gets to be 10 to 15 inches in height, so they are a great option for a container. It's the Tom Thumb Mixed Colors variety by Burpee. The Hungarian poppy, another beautiful poppy. Again, just sprinkle these on top of the soil now in wintertime, or you can even use the winter sowing method to grow some of these. I actually just posted a video on growing poppies on my channel, so you can check that out if you're interested. And these are very similar to the ones that are called Lauren's grape in this beautiful purple color. It's an annual, and this one grows 28 to 35 inches in height. Here's a real beauty and unique plant, a showstopper. This is the Amaranth Love Lies Bleeding. I grew this a few years ago from a plant start that I had purchased at a roadside plant stand, and it is stunning. It gets about 3 to 5 feet in height. Yep. It does need some support because once these bloom strands start coming out, it puts a little bit of weight on the plant and they become top heavy, but gorgeous strands of magenta fuchsia blooms. They also have these peat pots. I don't prefer these. I find that they break down and start getting algae all over them. Sometimes they grow a little fuzzy mold, and for that reason I try to stay away from these types of pots. There are some called poo pots that are actually made out of cow manure, and those I would try at some point, but these peat ones I tend to stay away from. But if you are interested, they have them in the 50 peat cells for $4.88, and they also have these 3-inch Jiffy pots. Said seed starting, biodegradable. You can plant these right in the ground, and that is the whole appeal with these. They would not require transplanting. You start your seeds right in these, and then you can plant them in the ground. So this one here, very similar to an egg carton situation, which in fact you can use egg cartons if you prefer. But there you get 50 pots for $4.88. They also have the pellet seed starting trays. So this you get 25 peat pellets in a tray, and these are cool because you don't need soil. Okay, normally you need seed starting soil to start your seeds, but in this case you would actually just put water on these. They will expand to the size that you see there, and then you'll plant your seedling right in it. And over time, as it gets larger, you will have to transplant it into a different pot, but these are a great option and very kind of easy to deal with, not very messy if you want to just get a few things started. And this tray here is $9.97 for a 25 peat pellet and tray with a humidity dome. And here's what I'm picking up today. I'm going to get a pack of the Tithonia seeds, the Mexican sunflower, a new indoor gardening mat, a soil scoop, a pack of the gloves, because these are super useful, some indoor pumping row by Dr. Earth for my houseplants, some neem oil and copper fungicide, as well as some of those larger half moon or half circle trellises or plant supports for my limelight hydrangeas, as well as this really beautiful watering can. So all in all, a really productive shopping trip with some really great spring gardening items here at Walmart. So I hope you enjoyed checking out what my store has in stock, and I hope that you can find some of these varieties near you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.